the last thing, or one of the last things I'll mention, and see if you could speak a little bit on is, one of the other trends we really saw coming out of the pandemic is this shift within the labor market. I mean, we're seeing, I think, this big gap between jobs available. You hear stories of people don't want to go work at certain jobs. And like you had mentioned in the beginning, part of inflation, we're going to have to see wages start to rise. So can you speak a little bit to that? And is there going to be an end to it? Is it, a balance where once wages hit a certain level, we're going to see it kind of flood back? Or what's your thoughts on the labor market, that coming up?
So, the labor market, really the economy broadly, is being challenged by the supply side. We see it in terms of supply chains and the supply of consumer goods, like we talked about earlier. We also see it in the supply of labor. And, to your point, there's a tremendous amount of demand for labor. There are more job openings than there are unemployed individuals here in the United States, right? The problem is people haven't necessarily returned to the labor force. And we think there are a couple of things that are going on here. The first is that a decent amount of labor supply has not come back because it has not had to. Going back to my point earlier about the consumer, you still have people sitting, on relatively healthy cash piles. They say to themselves, you know what, I'm not going to go get a job because I don't need a job right now. But at some point that cash runs out, and those individuals will come back into the labor market more broadly. The second thing we think is going on here is a bit of a skills mismatch. If you looked at the labor market before the pandemic, what you would have seen was that 80% of the jobs in the United States were in services and 20% of the jobs were in manufacturing. Now, what's the part of the economy that's been firing on all cylinders? Manufacturing. What's been under pressure? Services. You can't necessarily take a bartender and put them on an assembly line making consumer goods. They might be able to make a mean cocktail, but they probably can't make a widget. And so the skills mismatch is something, and you can see that in the survey data as well, particularly amongst small businesses. Hey, I posted this job, some guy applied, he showed up and he had no idea how to do what I was potentially going to hire him to do. And then the third thing we think is going on is relatively specific, but the female labor force participation rate fell by about twice as much as the male labor force participation rate as the pandemic took hold, and it really hasn't shown any signs of recovering. The reason why is that childcare is still a significant issue for a lot of families in the United States. We were dealing with it just last week as Omicron has spread. We got an email on Sunday night saying, hey, school's canceled tomorrow because we can't find any teachers to come in and teach. That meant that we had to keep our daughter home. We're very fortunate that we have family around the corner that can help out, but not everybody's in that position, and childcare is still a significant issue. And so there are things that are weighing on labor supply in the current environment, and that's part of why you're seeing wage growth accelerate to its fastest pace since the early 1980s and late 1970s. But again, we do think that will come off the boil over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. We do believe that labor supply will come back. We may not get all the way back to where we were pre-pandemic. We have seen a significant amount of retirement over the course of the past couple of quarters, but we will get some incremental labor supply here, and hopefully that turns down the temperature, particularly as it pertains to wage growth in the current environment.